All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Captain Christina Carney, and it's my honor and privilege to be your host for today's ceremony. On behalf of the Bay State Battalion Commander, Lieutenant Colonel Churro Stefano, welcome to today's Hall of Honor inauguration ceremony. Please rise for the posting of our nation's colors. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Please allow me to briefly recognize some of our distinguished guests in attendance today. The Worcester Polytechnic Institute Interim President, President Philip B. Ryan. Provost Eric Overstrom. Dean of Undergraduate Studies, Art Heinricher. Dean of Students, Philip Clay. Assistant Vice President of Government and Community Relations, Linda Luft. WPI Air Force ROTC Detachment Commander, Lieutenant Colonel Michael DeRosa. Attending on behalf of Worcester State University President, Director of Military Affairs, Alan Jackson. We thank you all for attending the ceremony this morning. Today we will induct 8 WPI Army ROTC alumni into our Bay State Battalion Hall of Honor. 7 of these individuals received their initial leadership training here in the Bay State Battalion Corps of Cadets, while one served as a cadre member to the Bay State Battalion as a professor of military science. Each took their leadership skill sets out into the world and provided a lasting, positive impact in government, industry, and society. Even to this day, these leaders continue to positively impact the world around us, either through their direct actions or the legacy that they have left behind. I'd like to now introduce to you the Hall of Honor inaugural induction class. Seated before you in the front are the Gold Star parents of First Lieutenant Ryan Patrick Jones, WPI class of 2005, Mr. and Mrs. Kevin and Elaine Jones. Lieutenant General retired David Hebner, WPI class of 1967. Lieutenant General retired Kevin T. Campbell, Worcester State University class of 1973. Brigadier General retired James A. Cerrone, Assumption College class of 1977. Brigadier General Frederick A. Henry, Fitchburg State class of 1984. Brigadier General Paul Smith, Fitchburg State Class of 1979. Brigadier General retired Edward Harrington, Professor of Military Science at Fitchburg State from 1980 to 1983. And Major General retired John DeFreitas III, UMass Lowell's class of 1967, was unable to attend today's ceremony. The amazing accomplishments and personal examples set by these individuals earned their induction into this prestigious Hall of Honor. However, this revered Hall of Honor would never have been realized without the effort and energy of the Bay State Battalion Hall of Honor Committee. Please allow us to recognize the individuals who made the committee and this day possible. If you would, please stand to be acknowledged when your name's called. Colonel Retired Alan Cunningham. Colonel Diane Ryan. Major Keith Benoit. Major Nicholas Moscata. Major Patrick Roddy. And the President of the Committee, Lieutenant Colonel Retired Philip Schoenig. Now, before we begin today's formal portion of the ceremony, we'd like to give a brief history of the ROTC program at WPI. Today, WPI's Army ROTC program is known as the Bay State Battalion. The first military training for students at WPI originated with the student organization known as the Salisbury Guard. The Salisbury Guard was organized in 1870, just 5 years after WPI's founding in 1865. After various drilling sessions, the unit applied to the state for a stand of muskets that the student organization disbanded before the arms arrived. With the Great War raging in Europe, later be known as World War I, military training began in earnest at WPI late in the spring of 1918. The war developed plans for Student Army Training Corps, or SATC, across the nation. WPI's SATC unit was installed on October 10, 1918, but with the armistice being signed on November 11th, the unit was disbanded in December of 1918. Following World War I, there was no formal military training program at WPI until World War II. A naval training unit known as the V-12 was activated on WPI from July 1, 1943 until being closed on February 28, 1946. After 5 more years without an officer training program, the United States Army established a permanent program at WPI as a result of the Korean conflict. An Army Senior ROTC program was formally started on April 1, 1951, and has remained a full-time viable program since then and continues to produce officers for the United States Army. In the early years, participation was mandatory for all male full-time undergraduate students. Today, participation is completely voluntary. The Bay State Battalion officers training for students throughout the Worcester Consortium, as well as those full-time students enrolled at Fitchburg State University and the University of Massachusetts at Lowell. From the Salisbury Guard of 1870 to the Bay State Battalion Cadets of 2013, WPI continues to host a program vital to the production of the future leaders of the United States Army and the United States of America. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, the interim president of Worcester Polytechnic Institute, President Philip B. Ryan, would like to say a few words.
Good morning and welcome. Special welcome to our honorees and their friends, guests, and family, many returning alumni of WPI, and especially a warm welcome to those honorees who are not WPI grads but have spent some time here, part of the ROTC program, who are members of the Bay State Battalion. Welcome to you, your family, and friends and guests. There's a very long history of WPI's connection to the military services. Many of our early presidents had their leadership skills developed and honed in the military. A couple of examples. Our 6th president, Ralph Earl, was a retired Rear Admiral, U.S. Navy. He served from 1925 to 1939. he was followed by his classmate at the Naval Academy, Wat Tyler Coveris, another retired Rear Admiral who served during the war years and post-war years until 1952. When Dave Huebner and I were here on campus, the president was retired Lieutenant General Harry Purnell Stork. President Stork achieved a lot, but his most notable accomplishments and contribution to WPI were his visionary ideal of the WPI, what became the WPI plan, and under President Stork, we first admitted women to WPI. Unquestionably, ROTC has had a significant impact on student life here at Worcester Tech. Thousands of students have attended WPI through the ROTC. The ROTC is an important source of scholarship support for many of our students. More than that, our students make significant contributions to our campus community through their leadership, campus involvement, character development, teamwork, and a whole lot more. So I'm so proud to see some of our former ROTC cadets honored today, as well as so many in the back of our current cadets and their families as well, and I hope some of you someday are sitting here in the front row being honored as we are with our special guest today. Please indulge me for a few moments as I talk about two of our very special WPI who are being recognized today, and that is Ryan Patrick Jones and Dave Huebner. Today we honor Ryan Patrick Jones posthumously, and I especially welcome his parents, Kevin and Elaine Jones, sitting here in the front row to this most meaningful and emotional honor ceremony. My family name is Ryan. My grandfather was Patrick Ryan. My brother's middle name is Patrick. My son's middle name is Patrick. Ryan Patrick. Perhaps a coincidence? To me, it's a little bit more meaningful and a deeper connection than just a coincidence. Ryan was a brother in Phi Kappa Theta. That's my fraternity. Many of the brothers are here today out of respect and to honor Ryan. Some 40 years apart, Ryan and I took the same pledge when we were initiated, pledging and promising to uphold the WPI motto of give, expect nothing thereof. As I read about Ryan, as I talked to people about him, he had many accomplishments, but I think the headlines would read something like, always willing to help others. Ryan Patrick Jones more than fulfilled that pledge that he took some years ago when he promised, give, expecting nothing thereof. Dave Huebner was a contemporary of mine in the mid-'60s when President Stork was president. You'll soon hear of his distinguished military career, followed by his remarkable industry career. I knew Dave a little bit in our undergraduate days, but I've come to know Dave extremely well as a fellow trustee. We've served together on the board together for nearly 15 years. And during that time, his leadership skills have been demonstrated so many ways in his role as a board member, and he's added immeasurably to the board's deliberations, decisions, and those decisions' impact on our university. He has a very effective Socratic style of questioning, searching, and probing to get right to the core of the issue. His judgments are always principle and value-based, the guiding one being what's in the best long-term interest of our students and what's in the best long-term interest of our university. Dave has contributed significantly with his time, his talent, and his treasure. He's one of WPI's most avid supporters. His warm, approachable, collegial, and welcoming style is so much welcomed by students, faculty, fellow trustees, and all who've come to know him. Dave is always ready with a good story and an appropriate analogy, often delivered with a most enjoyable and usually dry sense of humor. Dave's a trusted advisor, and I'm very proud to call Dave Huebner a good friend. So congratulations to all of you. Welcome to WPI. I look forward to hearing the wonderful stories of those that we gather to honor today.
Thank you, President Ryan. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, the commander of the Bay State Battalion and professor of military science for WPI Army ROTC, Lieutenant Colonel Churro Stefano, would like to say a few words.
I'm going to go over a little bit of history that President Ryan did. Since it's already in my notes, I'm not going to cut it out because I might mess up the rest of this from being nervous. There is some open seating, and I see a lot of people standing, so I'll just wait a second before I begin and just ask that you guys go ahead and fill in the seats. There's no need for people to stand, cadets included. If there's people out there in the audience, I mean, there's at least 20 open seats out there, maybe less, but go ahead and fill it in. So good morning and welcome back. It was interesting yesterday, a lot of alumni activities, and to hear the stories and the reconnections, some 25 years removed or more. And it was kind of a dream of mine coming here 2 years ago that I would start something like this. And I first passed the idea to Dr. Berkey, and then I asked General Huebner, what do you think about this? Is this something that I can start here at WPI? I got both of their blessings, and here we are 2 years later. So it's finally come to fruition. And as Captain Carney said, I'm privileged to serve as a professor of military science here at WPI, and it's definitely my honor to speak with all of you and meet with all of you today at this very long-term ceremony that's going to have an enduring impact, I think, on many, many students for generations to come. It's definitely a fitting tribute to the many accomplishments of these officers and their service to our country. And we're truly honored to induct them and are proud to have both their photo and their bio in the Hall of Honor over here at Daniels Hall. The intent behind the initiative is to honor and preserve the many contributions of the Bay State Battalion Army ROTC graduates, and to identify and highlight individuals as role models for current, potential, and future cadets, and to edify the greater public on the fine traditions of the WPI Army ROTC program. So with that, I feel a great sense of pride in a lot of different ways. I'm proud to be considered a member of the WPI community. I'm proud that I'm given the opportunity to serve as a soldier in the world's greatest army. I'm proud of all the hard work that not only the cadre here for the ROTC program, but all the folks behind the scenes at WPI put forth to make this day happen. And a lot of times people don't realize the work and effort it took. It took about 1.5 years worth of work to pull all this together. And of course, I'm extremely proud of all the amazing cadets that hopefully you've had a chance to interact with, or if not, you will. You know, when a saying comes to mind when I think about the inductees and the cadets that I learned from probably one of the most successful men I know, and he always used to say, the highest reward for a person's dedication and success is not what they get for it, rather is what they become through it. So to me, this is kind of a dedication of that process. The cadets sometimes joke about the many mantras I have, like leaders are readers, and then why we must learn to be happy with where we are now, but never satisfied. And so I was very happy to be chosen as a professor of military science here at WPI, but I knew there was more that could be done, and I wasn't clearly satisfied, so I knew I needed to improve, and this was one of those dreams that I had for this organization. So it's one of many, many visions that I had, and the many hours of work and planning and coordination that went into the hall will be forever a memory of mine and the cadre that helped make this happen. I certainly couldn't have done it without the steadfast dedication of my staff and the full support of WPI. We now have a place to honor and recognize the many successes, the hard work, and the commitment, and the sacrifices that paved the way. It's my hope that this Hall of Honor ceremony, along with the other alumni events this weekend, might serve as an impetus for future alumni support and mentorship. Who knows the number of young people that will be inspired by the words on the Hall of Honor, or perhaps by the ones shared in speeches or one-on-one engagements. The future of this battalion, and more importantly, the cadets, is very bright, and it's my sincerest desire that I do all I can to set the conditions for exceptional learning and a lifelong success. So as I prepare to close, here's the kind of the history part that I wanted to pull in. It's with great enthusiasm and passion for the ROTC program that I launched this idea shortly after arriving. And the inaugural Hall of Honor induction ceremony is a reflection of the rich military history that was mentioned earlier. So therefore, I'd like to read a little history that I wrote about the past presidents of WPI that set the foundation for all ROTC programs in this fine institution. And a brief glimpse of that, you'll see there's a picture on the hall on the left-hand side where cadets were standing in formation, what is now the beautiful quad, but it was a parking lot back then in 1952, so that was the oldest shot we could find of the Army ROTC class. So from WPI's fifth president, Ira Hollis, who graduated first in his class at the Naval Academy, to Ralph Earl, the architect who designed many of WPI's buildings, including Boynton Hall, and most of Worcester's major buildings. Mr. Earl was the only president to have attended WPI as a student, though his appointment to the Naval Academy ended his brief stay as an undergraduate. Upon his retirement as a Rear Admiral, Mr. Earl returned to become the 6th president of WPI. Rear Admiral Watt Tyler Claveris was chosen as the 7th president. He guided WPI through the difficult years of World War II, and through his efforts, it was selected as the site for the Navy V-10 Officer Training Unit. Claveris was instrumental in establishing an Army ROTC program here on campus. And then finally, Harry Stork, the Institute's 10th president, came to WPI after retiring as a lieutenant general, following a very distinguished Army career. So I think it's clear that I'm thrilled to be part of the ceremony and proud and humbled to serve as a mentor to the amazing cadets you see back in the back of the room. And I try to share with them the many lessons I learned throughout my career from very incredible leaders, and that I've learned from the time I started as a private to a warrant officer and now as a commissioned officer. And I take it with great pride and privilege that I get to share some of those things with these folks today. Today we honor those that have set the example and they can be proud of and strive to emulate. I'm grateful for the many key leaders of the WPI community that came to show their support for those that have represented this and other universities in central Massachusetts in the most honorable manner. So with that, I'll close and say God bless you, Godspeed on your travels home. I'd like to turn it back over to Captain Carney for the inaugural class. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel Stefano. Ladies and gentlemen, the Hall of Honor itself is located just outside the Military Science Department in Daniels Hall. The actual unveiling of the Hall of Honor monument will take place in Daniels Hall immediately following the conclusion of the induction portion of today's ceremony. We hope that you will join us. Now, with further ado, our inductees. Each inductee will receive a plaque with the BSB coin at the top as a token of our appreciation. Representing our first inductee are the Gold Star parents of First Lieutenant Ryan Patrick Jones. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. and Mrs. Kevin and Elaine Jones.
Thank you so much. Kevin and I, we're so humbled to be here to represent our son. One amazing man. We are, I guess you'd say, missionaries to our son, who left us a letter upon his death to open, which stated, "Do good things in my name and give scholarships." Well, we said we got to do this one step further. So we took Ryan's $400,000 insurance policy. It's just money. We live fine. We don't need this money. But the world needs this money, and the world needs good things to be done. So with this money, we started the Ryan Patrick Jones Heart of a Hero Foundation. It was started in 2007 upon Ryan's death. To date, $85,000 in scholarship money has been given out. Another $158,000 to good causes, a lot of those to veterans. We provide different services to veterans organizations. Kevin and I, by ourselves, have done 13 shipments to Iraq and Afghanistan, but now with me being old and all, It's getting more difficult, so we partner with Family Link in Leominster, which does shipments twice a year. And we provide the funding to pay for shipments because it's very costly for that. Plus, we're there to pack the boxes with them and give them support when troops come home. Leominster has a wonderful program that they honor the returning soldiers. So we provide gift bags for these soldiers. Go to the movies, go out to eat, go do something fun, forget about war. And it's just been very rewarding to do that. We do a lot with the veterans' homes. We provide Leslie Lightfoot, who has started the Center in Gardner that partners with Mount Wachusett. The men come there, live in beautiful condos, one of which is named for Ryan in his honor. They get free education, they get rehab, they leave there feeling much better, having a college education, not just for them, but their wives or husbands. We provide financial assistance to this. And one of the greatest things, and that gives Kevin and I pleasure, is at Thanksgiving time, we had received a visit from a church, and we call ourselves the token Catholics of this church because they're not our church, but they wanted us to come to a Thanksgiving dinner that they were just going to start for the community. And I said, well, what can we do? And no, just come. No, we don't want to just come, we want to do something. So we started buying the turkeys, and it was a small, basically honoring the seniors of the community. And I felt that it's nice to honor the seniors, but what we should be doing here too is honor veterans. So then we started doing 2 dinners. And over the past 6 years, we are now up to serving 400 people at 2 dinners. And this dinner is on Ryan, and his picture hangs there, and we just ask, everybody wants to give us money. I've even come home with money in my pocket, and if I found out who it was from, I give it back, because this all comes from the foundation. We pay for everything, and the church does a remarkable job. These people come for this dinner, white linen tablecloths. It's like you're in an elegant restaurant, flowers, candles. They're given entertainment. We either have a play or we hire some music to come in. And then when we're all done with the 2 servings, first the seniors at 4 o'clock and the veterans at 5, then we take a van and we go out and we deliver to all the people in the neighborhood that are shut-ins. Last year we did 75 shut-ins that get meals. And then we go to the home in Fitchburg for people that are not so lucky, they don't have any place to live, and we feed them. So this year we're up to 45 turkeys. And Kevin and I do what we call our road trip out to the valley, buying hundreds of pounds of potatoes and carrots, and everything is just fresh. And the apple farm donates apples, and we bake apple crisp. And it is amazing to see the veterans, especially, because they are so grateful that a lot of these are Vietnam veterans that obviously didn't get the welcome homes that the soldiers today do, and they have tears in their eyes, and they're just so grateful to have this. But who is even more grateful? It's us. It's us to be able to serve people that have served their country. And the top people in this university, in this college, in this institute, they're standing back there. Take pride. You put that uniform on. You dare to serve your country. You serve them with honor. You serve them with respect. And we have nothing but admiration for you people. And this is the best of the best that WPI has. So to those boys and women, and I just want to say to these men and women that you project a positive attitude upon this institute. There are others that do great things, but you are the ones that are going to be the greatest. My son said, "Mom, I am destined for greatness." And I laughed in his face. And I go, "Yeah, me too," you know? I knew what he meant, that he was going to become the best that the Army had to give. And he was. And how I know this is because the 27 men that served with my son, that were in his platoon, sent me a Mother's Day card upon Ryan's death, because it was right around Mother's Day. Each one of those men signing a message, not telling me, oh, you know, Happy Mother's Day or whatever, telling me what a wonderful leader that my son was. I still have this card. I brought this card to my son's funeral. It rests on his casket so all his men could be there. It came to the church, sat on his casket, wore it around my neck so all his men could be there. I've had contact constantly with Colonel Birchmeyer, his commanding officer, who told me he loved him as a son. I was just so proud to have him come to Westminster this year when we dedicated the United States Post Office, and he came up from Texas to speak. And I think the man had everybody in tears, because he had such respect and admiration for my son, and he went every place that he wanted to know, every place my son went, he went. He was a runner. Ryan was a runner, so he ran the trails that Ryan ran. And just an amazing, amazing man. And to have that respect from your commanding officer, it has to tell you something about who Ryan was. So I just say to both of you, or all of you, I should say, that know the difference between right and wrong, do the right thing, show respect to others, and when you all become officers, the only difference between you guys and the guys that serve under you is those guys that serve under you, they know more than you do. Listen to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Jones. Ladies and gentlemen, Lieutenant General David Hebner.
Let me first say thank you, Mrs. Jones, for that. I don't know what everybody has to say today, but nothing will compare to that. And I thank you for what you've reminded us all of today. I can't let the moment go by without about saying that thank you, Phil, for those kind and very generous words. I can say unequivocally that if my parents were still with us, my mother would have enjoyed it. My father would have enjoyed it. My mother would have believed it. When we were students here in the 1960s, there was a famous, very popular song. It had a phrase in it. The phrase that sort of the catchy part of the tune was, "There's something happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear." Now, some of you young cadets may not be familiar with this, but some of the other people in here I know are. It was a song recorded by Buffalo Springfield, and it was written by Stephen Stills, the title For What It's Worth. And it was a song about the turbulent 1960s, and they were turbulent. I'd say for those of you born since then, it would be hard to imagine exactly what the condition was that we were struggling with as a nation. That song has stayed with me through the years. I've never forgotten it. It has multiple meanings, like so many other songs in our lives. First of all, a reminder of what we need to do to be parts of our communities and to do things for our communities to build the nation that we're so proud of. But secondly, the song has stayed with me for years because it's a reminder that despite what you think about your life and your world today, there's something happening here, and what it is ain't exactly clear. And it's going to be that way throughout your military and civilian lives, cadets. It's a part of life. You can always stop at a point in time and say, I think I know what's going on. But as you look back on it, there's always something else that was happening then. So today, what are we recognizing? Today we're recognizing this thing called preparation. Okay, and what do I mean by preparation? It's preparation for the uncertainty that is out there in front of you. It's preparation to make a contribution, as Mrs. Jones just commented on. Preparation happens in the institutional environment, but it especially happens in the ROTC department because you're taught so many things here that you may not be fully aware of as you're learning them. And so while there are a number of us being recognized today as honorees, we all feel very good about it. But it's a time for us to pause and look back and say, thank you very much to the Colonel Stefanos of the world who preceded Colonel Stefano, and who led the way in preparing us. Major Leon B. Hittner. Why do I remember him today? He was not the head of the ROTC department here when I was a student, but he was a member of the cadre. That man had impact, and I have never forgotten it. It's made me a better man. It's made me a better soldier. It's made me a better citizen. And it's one of those dimensions of college life that those of you here in this group today and those you represent will get a chance to recognize one day at the imprint that's being made on you today as leaders and as citizens of this great United States. So I congratulate Colonel Stefano for the initiative that led to this recognition today. Sure, we'll accept the plaques as honorees, but it's really recognition of Colonel Stefano and the Colonel Stefanos of the world who are doing this today around the country, and those who have preceded you and the cadres that have worked as well. And on behalf of all of them, thank you very much for what you've done here today.
Thank you, General Haber. Ladies and gentlemen, Lieutenant General Kevin T. Campbell.
Well, thank you very much for having me back, and to the Joneses, thank you for those wonderful remarks. Your son certainly lived up to every standard that the Army expects of officers. And Chiro, thank you. I think what separates leaders from others, those that take the initiative to do something like this, so thank you very much. Just briefly, as I look back at WPI, Phil, what I'd like to say to you is that the cadre and my fellow students from WPI certainly got me out of the starting blocks and aimed in the right direction. And I felt very comfortable when I got into the Army looking back on my experience and saying they certainly set me straight. And in particular, a young captain at the time, Nick Terciano, severely wounded in Vietnam, who always had time for everybody else and took very little time for himself. So it was a wonderful example as I left the WPI ROTC program. I was also fortunate in my career to end up working for a guy from Worcester who became a 3-star general and was inducted into this Hall of Fame on this day, Dave Heebner, back in 1989 through 1990. And as Phil described, he hasn't changed an inch, Phil, since back then. I can remember several tough questions that I'm still trying to find the answers to, and he has a task that I have to still get back to him, and I will at some point in time. And really two other people I'd like to really recognize and say thanks to. One is my lovely wife, who for 38 years endured me being away and gone. And then every time we came back to Worcester, being nomads, my sister-in-law, Ann, my wife's twin, would always take us in and house us, feed us, and take good care of us. So to both of you, thank you for allowing me to spend 38 years dedicated to this country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, General Gamble. Ladies and gentlemen, Brigadier General James A. Cerrone.
First, I would like to say what an honor this is and how humbled I am for the ability to be here. There's an old saying in public speaking that the shorter the speech, the more you should rehearse and prepare. And that all went out the window this morning when we were driving over here, and I reflected upon yesterday's events, starting with the one-on-one interface while waiting for the awards ceremony and the ability to talk to the cadets. Second, the awards ceremony itself, which recognized achievements I could have only dreamt about when I was in college. The panel seminar and the detailed, well-thought-out questions that were asked, and then the great answers that were provided, followed by the promotion ceremony and another opportunity at the social to talk to the cadets. And as I reflected on that, I realized just how much planning, preparation, and how flawless the execution was. And I think Colonel Stefano had mentioned that much of that was done by the cadets themselves. So, as the old song goes, that old paratroopers just slip away, I'm confident that as I slip away, that we're in good hands. These cadets are better cadets by pound for pound and academically than we ever were. And this ROTC cadre's got it right. So as we move on into our elderly years, even though there's tough times ahead, I'm very, very confident that we're in good hands and that the ability to fight our nation's wars and win and or go into other endeavors in service of our country, we got good kids out there that are going to make it happen. So for that, I thank you, and for this opportunity, I thank you.
Thank you, General Cerrone. Ladies and gentlemen, Brigadier General Frederick A. Henry.
Well, first, I would just like to pay some respect to some people here in the audience. To the Jones family, I thank you for your story. It's an inspiring story. And thank you for wanting to give back to your community. Despite the loss of a loved one, thank you for what you do for our communities. For the distinguished guests, thank you. And for those members of the cadre, thank you so much for what you do to shape the seed corn of our nation. I believe that the men and women that are standing behind us represent the seed corn that will help to fight our nation's battles. We have some difficult days ahead, particularly in this world called cyber. So thank you for what you do to transform the minds of the young men and women that stand behind us or stand in front of me. I would like to also recognize my mother. I didn't do a good job of recognizing people last night. I was at Fitchburg State to receive an award. So to my mother who's here, I'm proud and humbled that she has been able to see me advance to this rank. I want to recognize my wife, LaTanya, because she has put up with a lot. It hasn't been 30-some-odd years, but I will tell you the 4 years that she's been with me is just like probably 30-some-odd years. And so thank you. But I just want to tell you from the bottom of my heart that I am nothing more than an inner city kid who was given opportunities to serve. I did not know that some 30-some-odd years ago that I would find an opportunity to serve through the Army ROTC program. Then the professor of military science, who's sitting here in front of me, retired General Harrington, had a poster in the student union. And it was a poster recruiting cadets, well, then future cadets, to ROTC basic camp. He said, come party and join the fun. And no commitment. And I would tell you that that was my first opportunity because I weighed my options. I was going to either pack bags at Market, what now is called Market City, or go to ROTC basic camp. I chose basic camp. Little did I know that 30 years later that I will be standing in front of you as an inductee to this distinguished award. So I am thankful for the transformational leadership that this man has been able to do for me. And that's what the cadre does here. You transform the attitudes of young men and women. The institutions give you the aptitude that you need to succeed. But it's your attitude, not just your aptitude, that determines your altitude. And so for those men and women standing in front of me, it's your attitude. Maintain a positive attitude. Our nation needs you. Our nation needs your selfless service, and I am grateful to be standing here in front of you because I'm just an inner city kid who has been given opportunities to serve and had my attitude transformed by great Americans. And so thank you very much.
Thank you, General Henry. Ladies and gentlemen, Brigadier General Paul Smith.
Good morning. It's an extreme honor and privilege to be here this morning, and I'm humbled to be in the company of these distinguished general officers and in the company of Kevin and Elaine Jones, who have done so much for our community, so much for our state, so much for our veterans in Ryan's name. Driving down here was kind of funny for me. I haven't been to WPI in a long, long time. But I distinctly remember 37 and some odd years ago today walking into a building over there on a snowy afternoon because I wanted to try out this Army thing. Because somebody told me you could go into ROTC and not make any commitments or obligations. Well, 37 years have passed, and every day that I've had the honor to wear this uniform has been a great day. But what I'm struck by today is that this is a family reunion. And we have old folks like me all the way down to young folks like you. And we are a huge, powerful, significant, and important Army family. We are a force to be reckoned with across the world. No one on the planet can stand toe-to-toe with us and hope to survive. And that's because not of our firepower, not of our sophisticated weaponry, but because of our human hearts. And our family is huge. Listening to Kevin and Elaine, they are an important part of our family as they carry on Ryan's legacy, as we talk about our veterans, as we look at our new recruits, and you are an important part of our family. And there's a price to be paid for being part of our family. First of all, you have to be ready to lay it on the line for the United States of America. And second of all, you need to pledge yourself to Army values. And that's what sets our family apart, is those values. The bedrock is selfless service. That's what it's all about, is service to our country and service to our people. And it wouldn't be complete today if I didn't talk about the ROTC cadre. Colonel Stefano, thank you for the important work that you do. In driving down here, I am remembering my #1 role model, Master Sergeant Al Drapo, an amazing Special Forces warrior who accomplished tremendous things in the Vietnam War. But perhaps his greatest accomplishment was taking reluctant warriors like me and some other folks that I knew and turning them into respectable citizens, powerful men and women, Army officers and warriors. Throughout the 37 years, I've carried Sergeant Drapo in the back of my head, telling me to do the right thing. And he's kept me on the right path, along with my lifelong partner and my executive officer, my wife, Nora. So, I guess in closing, thanks for this honor. And I guess I should complete the story a little bit on Sergeant Drapo. When I became a general officer, I most wanted Sergeant Drapo to be there to pin on the star, because I knew that when he recovered from his laughter, he'd probably have something important to say. But in researching, I found out that he passed away about 6 months before I got promoted. But he is with me always, and I think he's here today, along with Ryan Jones. So thank you, Sergeant Drapo, wherever you are. And thank you, Colonel Stefano.
Thank you, General Smith. Ladies and gentlemen, Brigadier General Edward Harrington.
Thank you very much, President Ryan and retired general officers and your ladies and my lady. Thank you so much for your leadership here. And I came here, and Mrs. Jones, I thought I had some remarks assembled, but when I heard yours, it began to unscramble. It brought back so many memories of a long time ago when I had a couple of very close friends make the ultimate sacrifice. So thank you both for that and for what you do today. It's the best way to grapple with your loss, I know. To Fred Henry, thanks so much for your remarks. What Fred doesn't realize that I shared with him, that one time we put on a 5K race at Fitchburg State College, took the cadets out and took the college students out, and I'm chugging up a long hill, and Fred comes up beside me, and we ran up the hill together. And I began to realize Fred must be saying to himself, I could get a heck of a lot better time if I weren't having to stay with this old guy. But Fred, so well done. To the cadets, to Phil Shanig, to Pat Donnelly, to Dave Conop, you bring back so many memories of what I feel to be the top 2 assignments of my life. One of them was here at WPI, Fitchburg State College. And to President Ryan, thank you so much for welcoming me here. WPI accepted me as a member of its faculty at Fitchburg State College. So I'm very appreciative of that, and for me that's just an example of the unselfish approach and continuing strong support the leaders of this institution have given this profession of arms we have. My utmost gratification, because I think about some of the graduates I've encountered, and every one of them has accomplished great things in their lives, both in the profession of arms and then as they've moved on in their own civilian pursuits. And I think that's a wonderful example of the outcome of an institution such as WPI. Colonel Stefano, thanks so much. Your leadership is obviously the make it happen leadership. Captain Kearney, well done, keep it up. I'm not sure if there's a board here that shows past PMSs, but our PMS was Lieutenant Colonel Roger Kearney, so got some heritage to fill there too. But I'd say to the cadets, as you go through your program here, think about the heritage that you see here today, as well as when you walk amongst the halls of WPI. By the demonstrated example of the former retired and active officers here and the NCOs, that heritage indicates service above something beyond your own personal pursuits, service to your nation above and beyond yourself, service to the soldiers you'll lead. So very important to keep that uppermost in your mind. I'm humbled and deeply honored, and your words, ma'am, I've got to tell you, it flooded my memories with a couple of buddies I had way back when that made the ultimate sacrifice, and a younger brother I spent time with last week who's 80% disabled, and just now, 2 weeks ago, came back from Youngstown, Ohio, where he visited the gravesite of his closest buddies in the Marines after 43 and a half years. So these types of memories stay with you forever, as will the profession of arms, whether you're in it or you're out of it. So again, thank you very much, sir. I'm deeply honored for this.
Thank you, General Harrington. Ladies and gentlemen, as mentioned previously, Major General John DeFreitas III was unable to attend today's ceremony. However, he wanted these words to be spoken on his behalf. Lieutenant Colonel Stefano, staff and students of the Bay State Battalion, leaders of Worcester Polytechnic Institute, and the University of Massachusetts Lowell, thank you for considering and including me in your Hall of Honor. First and foremost, the opportunities provided me as a result of my education, both in and out of uniform, could not have otherwise been possible without your support and guidance. The academic and leadership foundation provided at the university and within the ROTC battalion provided anyone with the skills and confidence to accomplish their dream or overcome any adversity. The school and ROTC program provided the tools to enable success at any level. I challenge each of you, use those tools to develop and grow as leaders and citizens at home, across our country, and across the globe. Commit yourself to something great and strive each day to fulfill greatness. I wish each of you continued success and thank you for remembering an old soldier. All my best, John DeFreitas III, Major General, U.S. Army, retired. Ladies and gentlemen, we sincerely appreciate your presence here with us today and hope you will join us in unveiling the actual Hall of Honor in Daniels Hall in just a few moments outside the Army ROTC office in Daniels Room 102. Please follow us to the unveiling location immediately following the retiring of the colors. Please rise for the playing of the Army song and the retiring of the colors.
We're the army
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the induction portion of today's ceremony. Thank you for attending.